it's gone. Brody Kostecki is the king of the mountain. He got it pulled up. He made that. He is now in 2024 the Repco Supercars Champion. And what a drive today.
G'day Supercars fans, James Pavey here, lead journalist for Supercars.com. We've got a new concept running this year for Supercars.com, the Summer Cool Down, brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers. I've got Zach Dowdle with me, my fellow colleague, Supercars nerd and fan. How you going, mate?
Good, thank you, Paves. A new co-driver for you on the Cool Down series of podcasts, but hopefully I can step in and do the job.
I think you will, mate. It's been a huge year in Supercars and, 12 rounds, 24 races. We've seen 8 different individual winners, but for a lot of that part of the season, you just don't really know what's going to happen next. But with this new concept, we're going to count down from each team, starting with Blanchard Racing Team. And Zach, from Supercars main game across to the Dunlop series, it's been a huge year for BRT, as we know. But going from one car to 2 cars is a massive leap, isn't it?
It's a massive leap for any team, and especially one that's as young as the Blanchard Racing Team, having only stepped out as its own entity in 2021. And especially when you're bringing up a young guy like Aaron Love as well, fresh out of Super 2 and only the one season of Super 2. It was always going to be a tough year for the Blanchard Racing Team, and unfortunately it has shown that. But in saying that, there were some glimpses of potential there for years to come. So it's definitely not all doom and gloom for BRT, and we even saw in Super 2 Jack Perkins making a 4-race cameo and winning 2 of them, claiming a round win for the first time since 2019 as well. So definitely not all bad news for BRT, but it definitely was a tough season.
It was always going to be a bit of a leap of faith for this team, getting someone like James Courtney, who has achieved so much in this sport, 15 race wins, a championship, as we all know, in 2010, but this was another opportunity for him to go, okay, cool, I'm outside of a really big team. What can I do? And I think he impressed a lot of people. I think there were moments through the season, you look at Perth, he was battling really hard with Nick Percat. There was a shootout performance in Townsville as well. But towards the end of the year, he really got some momentum going, didn't he?
And we can always expect that from James Courtney, especially on street circuits where a driver can make such a big impact with such big commitment. And we've seen over the years, James Courtney, he is a street circuit master. And that really has helped the Blanchard Racing Team. And as you said, there were especially glimpses from JC throughout the year. I mean, that Townsville shootout performance you mentioned, there was a time there where everyone was thinking he was going to come from the clouds to claim a pole position, which would have been absolutely extraordinary. But even in saying that, Gold Coast and Adelaide, there was pace to end the year as well. If they can just keep on building on that through next year as well, especially if it is James Courtney's last year, like we're all expecting it to be, I definitely can see there being James Courtney perhaps winding back the clock a little bit on 1 or 2 occasions, maybe bringing home some silverware for the Blanchard Racing Team on a good day.
Well, they've all got their racer's edge, don't they? When they put the helmet on, they want to get really right into the guts of it. I think JC is a big smiley guy. He loves racing and he's really popular in the paddock, but you see more often than not, he's really aggressive. They're the things that Aaron Love, I think, will be keen to take away from this year, is when to be aggressive, when to be fast, because there were accidents throughout the year and even moments when he would look back and go, I didn't need to do that. Look at the Bathurst 500, crashing twice at the cutting, really disappointing for him. But even then, a shootout performance for him, luck or whatever it was in Adelaide, that's a massive confidence boost for him, but it's the races where you really get your bacon.
And a shootout's a great experience as well. It's not very often you can make it into a top 10 shootout. I mean, there's 24 cars on the grid, so it's a less than 50% chance that you're one of those cars to make it into the shootout. So for Aaron in particular, that was a really good experience for him, and he did a real good job in that shootout as well. Sure, he fell back in the race, but he's an inexperienced guy. This is only his second season in Supercars machinery. He's only spent the 1 year in Super 2 in the lead up to this, and even then, it was a bit of a mixed season for Aaron in Super 2. And I think the Bathurst 1000 last year was a prime example of that. I mean, he dominated on the Friday to claim the victory and then had a massive shunt in Saturday Dunlop Series qualifying that, it ended his weekend. So, definitely a big punt from Tim Blanchard to promote someone like Aaron Love so early when they definitely, I think, could have given Aaron another year in Super 2 just to iron out some of those kinks. But at the end of the day, Aaron Love is a very, very talented race car driver. I mean, this is a guy who nearly won the Carrera Cup title a few years ago, despite missing 2 rounds. Like, that doesn't happen very often in such a close and competitive series like Carrera Cup. So the talent's definitely there, and I think having James Courtney there in his corner for another year full time, that can only be of benefit for him.
Before we get into too much detail, Zach, let's get a message from our partners. Our season reviews are proudly sponsored by City Rural Insurance Brokers. City Rural, a subsidiary of the Cowden Group of companies, has over 50 years' experience supporting their clients. They offer a range of specialist insurance from heavy industry to food trucks. They are your insurance pit crew. Head to cityrural.au. Well, Zach, I think it's time to look at this team's performance and the stats. I know you and I both love stats. We write about them all year, but how do we best paint the picture for Blanchard Racing Team in 2024? So you look at the head-to-heads here. Qualifying head-to-head, James leads Aaron 17-7. The race head-to-head, James leads 15-9. So, of course, the old dog still got it, but there were moments for Aaron as well, to pull through and get a result. I think you look as far as maybe Perth when James got that P6. That was a weekend he was willing to get his elbows out with Nick Percat. But apart from that, I'm not going to be too critical and say slim pickings, because this is a team that knows where they are at the moment. It's their first year as a two-car team. So I think if you're reading a lot of stories about this team and where they want to head, it's all good things from my opinion. I think Tim Blanchard's always been very honest about that. There have been a lot of changes that we've spoken about engineers and things through the year, and that's always going to be quite, you might destabilise a team a little bit, but they've got the right things in place to be successful one day. They probably knew it was going to happen in their first year, but would you look at those stats and think, well, it doesn't really paint the picture of their season?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, James Courtney, he's a proven performer in this series. He loves this category as well. So that's probably not too much of a surprise. It's definitely a year of learnings for Aaron, more than anything in particular. It's been a tough old year for Aaron, to be honest. I mean, sure, start the year at the Bathurst 500 with a couple of crashes, identical crashes. That's always going to knock your confidence, and you're always going to be trying to build from that moment onwards. And I think, sure, there were the odd incident here and there. And I mean, we've seen the performances of Aaron Cameron, his co-driver at the Enduros as well. I mean, maybe Aaron Love might be looking over his shoulder a little bit, going forward. But at the same time, if you're the Blanchard Racing Team, you got James Courtney retiring at the end of next year. I mean, how many changes do you want to make to your driver lineup? I really do think that stability is the way to go for them, at least for next year. And then going forward as well. I mean, Tim Blanchard seems very committed to Aaron Love as a long-term project. And it would be very cool to see Aaron Love make that next step forward next year because, I mean, as we've said before, he's got the talent to do it. He just needs that experience in supercars machinery.
Well, let's talk about next year. It's a longer season, 13 rounds, 34 races. A lot of opportunity to get a good result and make a name for yourself, especially with these new formats, different tyres for different qualifying and race. For Aaron Love, coming back to a second season in the sport where you've seen these tracks and these cars, you might know what to expect. But there could be little bits of change on the horizon. There are reports that one of the guys might at least run an Erebus-built chassis next year. So there's little things that could give this team a shot in the arm. Starting the season in Sydney, it's a familiar hunting ground for all of these guys. But then, obviously, there's the all-in test a few days before as well. So 2025, I mean, for starters, it could be JC's last season. He's probably already flagged that well and truly. But for Aaron Love, we've heard team bosses speak about this before. Even Jamie Whincup said, hey, look, you got to give young guys at least 2 years to prove themselves. I think Aaron would probably look back at this year and probably say, hey, look, if I get that chance next year, which at the moment we believe he will, he'll take it with both hands. But 2025, there mightn't be much Super 2 running for these guys as well. So BRT, 25, what do you reckon?
The Erebus chassis has to be a good thing for them, right? They've proven since last year, Erebus, are they the best chassis in supercars at the moment? I mean, it's very close between them and Triple Eight, isn't it? So I think that chassis is going to be really good for them. Second year for Aaron Love. Again, he's going to have experience to the vast majority of these tracks, save for Queensland Raceway. But then again, that's 12 of 13 tracks that he has past experience at, which, again, that can only be of benefit for him as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see where Blanchards go next year. And then, of course, there'll be a question floating around of who eventually replaces James Courtney if it is his last season. I think Aaron Cameron's put in a very good argument to be taking one of those seats at the Blanchards for 2026 and beyond. I mean, his Super 2 season this year was absolutely outstanding with the Kellys. To be fighting against Eggleston and Walkinshaw and Andretti United with a small family-run operation, You got to have a bit of talent to do that, and he's proven that he is talented across a wide range of categories and cars and different configurations of drivetrains and all that sort of thing. So, and he's the Mike Cable Young Gun Award winner for the year as well, which was more than justified. So, next year's gonna be really interesting for the Blanchards. I think might be baby steps for them to start off the year, but hopefully we see some really good results for them before the end of the year, because I can think of, James Courtney having a strong weekend at Adelaide to end his career. It doesn't really sound that far-fetched, especially if the Blanchards can progress forward up the grid.
So moving up the grid is going to be the prime ambition for the Blanchard Racing Team, as it will be for all teams, as we're reviewing in our summer cool-down season reviews brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers.